I don't know if any of you were in Midtown during the Super Bowl, but there was a whole lot of stuff going on Broadway. It seemed very, very chaotic. There were dozens of venues, and there was a gigantic slide that was built, and there were hundreds of scheduled activities that were taking place right in the middle of Manhattan. It was Super Bowl Boulevard for millions and millions of people who visited. And I walk through that part of town every morning, and it was odd and chaotic and wonderful and a great sort of New York City experience. So, as is the case with any of these big events that happens in New York City, there are hundreds of people putting in thousands of hours to make sure these things go off without fires and accidents and deaths and all sorts of chaos and mayhem. A lot of this stuff is coordinated by our speaker today, Captain Steve Pollackov, who helped to coordinate these efforts using some high-tech hardware and software solutions. He's going to talk a lot about that today. I don't want to take away any of his thunder here, but it was, again, a multi-tier institutional effort to coordinate state, local, bi-state, and national and federal authorities around GIS, and in the mobile device era. So it was such a complex event, and Steve was sort of instrumental in pulling it all together. Now Steve comes from the New York City Fire Department, where he's the head of GIS there, and he has a lot of experience with this type of coordination. He's drawn on many, many years and many big events that have happened in New York City that you might have heard about, including 9/11 coordination of data, Hurricane Earl, the blizzard of 2010, remember that? A lot of things in the last few years. Hurricane Irene, Hurricane Sandy, the 1994 World Trade Center bombing too. So Steve has many years of experience coordinating emergency management efforts, of staying calm under pressure and under panic situations, like not having tech is not a big deal for Steve. He could have done this presentation all by himself without any technology. So I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to ask that we all welcome Steve and look forward to his talk with a little round of applause. So thank you, Steve.
So I thought it was funny, Matt says to me downstairs, Steve, don't panic, we'll get this computer fixed. I'm like, Matt, I'm in emergency management. If I panic over a computer, we have bigger problems. Thank you for having me talk. So as Matt mentioned, the Super Bowl Boulevard was an enormous event here in New York. With the New York City Fire Department, we handle and dedicate resources to about 150 special events per year. Most of you know the big ones, New Year's Eve and the 4th of July. And then we have the smaller events, like the West Indian Day Parade, which is usually a very chaotic event, but most people don't know about the event. A lot of them we handle every year. Our yearly events, the Tennis Open, the UN General Assembly, and then we have the other events that are, I don't want to say once in a lifetime, but probably once in my career. But we had the 2004 Republican National Convention. We had the Pope visit us, I believe, in 2008. We had the Queen of England here in 2010. And then we also do a lot of special event mapping whenever the president comes to town, or the vice president. Which, believe it or not, the president usually comes to New York generally about once a month. We also handle sporting events like the Yankees World Series, that go on here in New York. The Mets World Series, if they ever make it to the World Series, we'll handle that. And then, as Matt mentioned, Super Bowl Boulevard. Super Bowl Boulevard was not only a big event with over 1 million people attending, but it was also an event that lasted for essentially 5 days with all the setup and everything. So, of course, in traditional fashion of the New York City Fire Department, approximately 1 month prior to the start of Super Bowl Boulevard, because we didn't know the Super Bowl was coming for 3 years prior, we have some staff chiefs that come to us and say, hey, we need to start getting ready for the Super Bowl. And the chiefs saw this map application that they liked, that they saw, which was hosted by the Charlotte, North Carolina Fire Department. And they built this web map application for the Democratic National Convention. So they saw it and they liked some functionality to it, and they came to me and my staff and said, can you check this out? And fortunately enough, I know one of the chiefs down in Charlotte, North Carolina, through some national committees that I sit on. And we did a webinar and we checked it out, and their vendor presented it to us. And the biggest thing that they liked about it was the fact that it had these 2 widgets that showed the current events and the upcoming events during the Democratic National Convention. So, that's kind of what started this off. So, we'll go into a whole demo. I'm just going to show just a few quick slides, because I'd rather show you the live demo of the map application. But I don't know about you guys, but we had obviously a tough winter here in New York. And me personally, and some of my friends, this is what we were hoping that the Super Bowl would look like on Super Bowl Sunday. With a ton of snow. This was actually about a week and a half prior to the game. And this was some of the crews trying to clean out the stadium. And this is kind of what I was hoping for. But the NFL was considering, actually, in the first time in Super Bowl history, that if this was going to be the conditions, they were actually thinking about bumping this up to the first ever Super Bowl Saturday, or possibly the first ever Monday night Super Bowl. The actuality of what it turned out to be was a beautiful 50-degree day with the players practicing in shorts. And me being who I am, this is really what I was hoping the Super Bowl was going to turn out to be, was the Giants winning it, but unfortunately my team didn't make it. So in reality, this is the 2 teams that played, the Seattle Seahawks, and I'll say the Broncos played, but they didn't really show up that day. The other thing that was unique about this Super Bowl event was it was the first bi-state Super Bowl event. Obviously, as all of you know here, the Jets and the Giants play in Jersey, but because of their corporate offices being here in New York, they still get to keep the New York title. So that's why the decision was made to have Super Bowl Boulevard here in Manhattan. This was one of the signposts that was up there on Broadway, showing all the various events going on. And this is what Broadway transformed into for Super Bowl Boulevard. I actually got to go down there with my friend here, Ben Yetman, here in the front row, and we got to do a walkthrough. And they did have some pretty cool events going on. So like I said, we had these map requirements that started off as just these 2 widgets showing, the current events and the upcoming events. Unfortunately, as most non-GIS people don't understand, is what needs to go into this on the back end to make this work. So that was really our #1 challenge. Our #2 challenge, after we saw this demonstration from Charlotte, North Carolina, and of course their vendor trying to sell us a product, was I didn't want another map product in our headquarters. That's been something we've been trying to do over the years. Our operations center has about 6 different map products on all sorts of different applications, and we're trying to get rid of all that. We want everything to go through our web map and have it as one complete common operational picture. So when this vendor wants to give me a new product, that kind of turned me off a little bit. The fortunate part was that their product was just some widgets that were built in a Flex application utilizing ESRI's ArcGIS server on the background. So like I mentioned, Ben Yetman here in the front row from Pen-Based Solutions is a vendor that we utilize, and we had already bought Pen-Based Flex map application called Envision Secure. So we had another sit down and watch the webinar again, and quickly came up with the conclusion that we could integrate these new widgets right into our Flex map application. Penbay assured me that it would be a pretty easy thing to do. But like I said, the biggest challenge that we had was now we had to go out and find all this data. And how are we going to do this? Fortunately enough, being in New York City and having good relationships with a lot of other agencies, including New York City OEM, Port Authority, New York, New Jersey, NYPD, we worked with the mayor's office. We also, we haven't done it much in the past, but we got to work with New Jersey OEM, New Jersey Office of Information Technology, and also the New Jersey State Fire Department. And we immediately reached out to these agencies to find out what kind of data that they had. New Jersey Office of Information Technology was nice enough to invite us into their ArcGIS Online group, and they had some data already posted up to ArcGIS Online. And then we also contacted the NFL, and they put us in contact with their vendor called Party Planners West, which was the vendor that was hired to coordinate the event, set up all the equipment, and actually run all the venues. They were nice enough to send us out actual CAD drawings of the whole Super Bowl Boulevard. And then the other thing that we didn't realize at the time was that there was several hundred events that were being held, but were not, I'll say, sanctioned by the NFL. So they weren't on the NFL's website, listed on their website, but they were being held in and around New York City because of the Super Bowl events going on. The other challenges, such as all these, venues and the geographic area of the event, like I said, we're kind of used to that. We're also very used to, due to our experience with pre-planning for a special event, figuring out where our resources are going to go, what resources are going to be dedicated to that event, so on and so forth. So that was kind of an easy cog in the wheel that we were able to work with. And then also, you can see in the bottom, the very quick timeline. Like I mentioned, we were hit with this literally a couple of days before Christmas. So on top of Christmas and New Year's, some planned days off, we didn't have a lot of time to put all this together.
Steve, what's SBB?
Super Bowl Blvd.
Oh, okay, thanks.
So as I mentioned, we worked with Pen-Based Solutions and our Envision Secure product, and by the time we were ready to put this into production, we had over 289 events mapped out between the 5 boroughs and New Jersey. So like I mentioned, a lot of our pre-planning involves our own apparatus. We have a whole special events team that will work with our staff chiefs and our division chiefs all the way down to our battalion offices, and they will decide, what units are going to work where and who's going to work those units and what radio designations those units are going to be. We also had to work with our special events team to identify the various zones that our teams would be operating in. And then also road closures. We had certain roads like Broadway itself, which was totally closed from start to beginning. The numbered streets that cross Broadway, most of them were open during the event. Actually, I should say all of them were open during the event. Some of them were completely open. Others were open with limited accessibility due to the apparatus and stuff being situated on those blocks.
Steve, IMT is Incident Management Team?
Incident Management Team. And I'm sorry with
Yeah,
if you don't know an acronym, because that's the way we speak in the government, please feel
Shout out.
free. And then you'll see to the top of the map also, we had the road closures from the NFL, and these were the road closures that they were bringing the trucks in and out, you know, in from Jersey into Broadway to set up everything, and then eventually to break everything down. As I mentioned before, some of the agencies that we worked with. So not only was it the local agencies that we typically work with, we got to work with those New Jersey agencies, the bi-state agencies, also some of the New York State agencies, New York State OEM, and New York State GIS who we typically work with. We also worked with the FBI, FEMA, and Department of Homeland Security. So I'm going to show you just a demo of the map application itself. So this is our Envision Secure product, and this is what we're rolling out into production. And these were all the boxes with the E's, or the 289 events that were being held throughout the 5 boroughs in New Jersey. But the other problem that we came across was not only did we have all these events, but we had multiple events on multiple venues. So that was something else that we needed to figure out. So it was a little hard for us to decide the best way. We had some meetings amongst ourselves and with Penn-based Solutions, and we came up with the thought that we had these blueprints from Party Planners West. We tried to geo-rectify them in GIS, but it didn't work out too well. So we kind of abandoned that quickly because of our timeline, and we just simply marked out the polygons that were showing all the various venues. What this allowed us to do was then we can now tie events to those venues. So by simply clicking on a venue, we could get this pop-up menu, and shows you the venue itself. And then we were able to add these tabs into our context menu or pop-up window. And the various tabs gave us the ability to locate at that venue all the various events. So we could see here at this venue there was 15 events. We could click the drop-down menu and scroll through the different events. We could actually click on one of those events and find out when it is and what time that event is being held. We also had this links tab, and we could attach any hyperlink that we wanted to under this tab. During our initial concept and demonstrations, we just attached this YouTube video, and this was a promotional video for Super Bowl Boulevard. And then, as I said, we had extreme difficulty trying to geo-rectify the blueprints that were provided to us, so we just attached a hyperlink to that floor plan. There was a complete map from one end of Super Bowl Boulevard to the other end, and fortunately enough, Party Planners West gave us each individual block with the blueprints of that block. And sorry, it was a little big there, but that's the complete blueprint between 39th Street and 40th Street. So like I said, it was a real simple way for us to be able to take some data and quickly hyperlink it to an area on the map. Then along with this, we had the widgets built that demonstrated the current events and the upcoming events. Obviously being that the event is over, there's no live data, but Ben added some sample data for me. So these would be all the events that were going on at the time, and we could click through these, and it'll pan us over, and then we could zoom right into that event and find out what's going on. Same thing with the upcoming events. We could do the same thing. It would have the listing of all the upcoming events, and we could click on it and then zoom to that event. The other nice feature that we didn't ask for but we got was this event filter. Matt, it's broken again. There we go. So this gave us the ability, if it works here, to actually pick some dates. And it would actually give us the listing of the various events by date and time, and we could click on one of these points and zoom us right in. So it gave us a nice little filter. We could see just concerts if we wanted to. We could filter it out a little more. We could see media events. We could see entertainment events, so on and so forth. So the other piece of this puzzle is we want to get information out to our crews. A good friend of mine who's the chief of department down in Wilson, North Carolina, he has a good saying that I kind of adopted, but he has a saying that in the fire service we need to stop fighting fires with emotion and start fighting fires with information, which is a very valid point. Now obviously this isn't a fire situation, but it's obviously a large event for us and could turn into a bad event if we have some sort of terrorist attack, if it were to occur during this event. And I think that's a very good point, and that's something that we can come across with GIS. We can now get information out to our fire personnel and start giving them heads up of what's going on. The first thing, like I said, you'll notice is all the dedicated resources that we had at this event. And the fire department actually did something different for this event, mainly because it was a multi-day event. But typically, like say New Year's Eve, we have a crew that comes down and they'll work New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Eve is over and they go back to their areas. Due to the complicated nature of this event, they actually had crews taken offline and they were assigned just to this event all 4 days that Super Bowl Boulevard was opened up. So all the crew members were the same crew members every day, and there was no fluctuation to that. You can see here these square icons with the G is what we call gators. It's actually like, I think I have a picture of it back in the slides, but it's kind of like an oversized golf cart with 6 wheels. It's manned with 2 EMTs or 2 paramedics, and they could treat a patient on the street, and then they can actually take that patient either in a seated position or a flat position, put them on this gator, and they'll transport them out away from the zone to one of these awaiting ambulances. This way we don't have ambulances going into a crowd of 1 million people, and the gators are a little bit more maneuverable. Just by clicking on the icon, it would tell you, what radio designation they were, in this case 77 Paul, where they're supposed to be located, and when it was live, we had the crew members that were working that gator. Same thing on the ambulances. We could click on an ambulance, find out who they are, and who was working that ambulance. These were the north and south sectors for the crews where they were supposed to be working, and also the chain of command. So they would have a lieutenant that was in charge of that zone. If they had any problems, they would have to go to that lieutenant. These red circles with the A's and the H's in them are what we call alarm investigation teams and hammer teams. So what these guys do is it's a firefighter and a fire officer on foot, and just like the same concept to the gator, if there's any alarms that go off in any of these buildings, these guys will immediately walk over to that building and figure out what's going on before we start sending in a minimum of 5 pieces of fire apparatus into this massive crowd. And then similar to the alarm investigation teams is we have these hammer teams, and these are the same as an alarm investigation team, except that this firefighter and fire officer are hazmat trained. So if they have any sort of hazardous material condition, any white powder jobs, again, they'll immediately go in, check out the situation before we start sending in 5 to 6 pieces of apparatus. And then, like I said, we really want to start, and this is going to be the wave of our future, is getting information into the firefighters' hands, not just at a special event. So we also took this to the next level. You'll notice these building footprints that turn dark gray as I zoomed in. They're dark gray because we have information behind them. We have what we call building information cards, which is a PDF document about that building. And just by clicking on the building and clicking on the link, we could open up this building information card. And we could start getting information about this building, about how many floors, the type of construction, does it have a standpipe, stuff to that nature about the building. I'm sorry, does everybody know what a standpipe is? Yeah? Okay.
No.
No.
You don't? Okay. All right, so a standpipe is a pipe that's built into the building and is built into the walls. And when you leave here, just look at any building as you walk around it, you'll see a connection coming out of the front of the building, or somewhere around the building. And they're built into high-rise buildings, and what that allows us to do is when our fire apparatus shows up, and let's say they have a fire on the 14th floor, we don't have to stretch hose up to the 14th floor. The fire engine will hook up to the hydrant, hook up another hose from the apparatus to this pipe. The firefighters on the truck will take a bunch of hose, hike up to the floor below the fire, hook up to that pipe below, and then stretch the hose up to the fire floor. So now we don't have to stretch all that hose up 14 flights of stairs. Also, within this building information card, we have schematics of the elevator banks and the staircases, which is very important to us in a high-rise building. And then we could also start attaching floor plans to this PDF document. Now again, this is a quick, simple solution for us. Where we're going with this in the future with pen-based solutions is that we're going to have all these floor plans geo-rectified. And that context menu, or pop-up window on the map, will actually give you a drop-down of the number of floors of that building, and you can select the 10th floor, and it will actually open up that floor plan geo-rectified on the map. Also, along with the building information cards, we took the subway data and did the same thing. We hyperlinked from the subway point to blueprints that we have of the subway station, and also schematics like the electrical system and the third rail systems. And again, our wave of the future is not having this PDF. New York City OEM a few years back actually took all these floor plans and geo-rectified them and actually have them lined up with the map. The only thing that's held us back so far of putting those feature classes actually on the map is due to the sensitivity of the data, we had to have this map password protected. and now it is password protected, so that's something we're going to be integrating directly into the map. And then also via hyperlinks, we went out, some of them we had, but we had all the New York City DOT cameras, not that one. Not that one. Maybe we'll find one that DOT has working. There we go. So we, right from the point, we hyperlink right to their live traffic cam. Actually, is that right outside? Yeah, 6:40. Somebody right at this. See if that's also, these cameras with the circles, we had found that a website called EarthCam actually had these live cameras. Takes us, actually that loaded pretty fast. So this is a high definition view of these EarthCams, hyperlinked right to their website. This was also kind of cool too, because you could digitally zoom and digitally pan the camera. And when Ben and myself went down there, my executive officer was actually off that day, and actually happened to call me, and we told him to look at the EarthCam, and he saw it, so we knew it was a live feed. And then along with those hyperlinks, we also have in the fire department what we call pre-incident guidelines. Similar to that building information card, it's a document that fire companies have put together about certain buildings. For whatever reason, fire company, maybe during their inspections, or maybe it's a high-profile building, they wanted more information about this building. So these icons with the eye in them is these pre-incident guidelines, and in similar nature, it's just a hyperlink to this PDF document. Each document's about 4 pages. Again, it gives us, information about that building. Also, during the course of the project, they came to my unit and wanted a map in that document, and then we took screenshots from pictometry to show all the sides of the building, or what we call exposures. So after we put all this together and demonstrated this to our commissioner and to our chief of department, who's the highest ranking member, and also to the chief of operations, who's the second highest ranking member, and some of the staff chiefs, they were all very impressed with this. They were thrilled with us and thrilled with the work that we did with Penn Bay in such a short timeline. But then the question came up 2 weeks before this opens, well, this is great, but I have to be on a fire department computer to see this information, because we're on a very tight, secure network, and you have to be on the fire department network to see our web map. So they said, Steve, how are we going to fix this? So now we're back to the drawing boards 2 weeks before this event opens, and we have to decide how we're going to get this out to the field. So Penn Bay, fortunately enough, was nice enough to offer us their Amazon Cloud server, and we put all this up on the Amazon Cloud, which was a phenomenal thing. And not only did it work out great for us, but it also showed the proof of concept that we need to get data outside of our firewalls. And my boss, the fairly new FDNY CIO, has since given me the permission to go ahead and purchase our own Amazon Cloud server. So now we have all this data and this application running up in the Amazon Cloud, and that's actually why I could show it to you live here. And then the next solution was, okay, well, how do we get it down to the people working the field? Well, we showed this proof of concept to the staff chiefs that we could do this through the ESRI ArcGIS Online and feed it right down into iPads through the ArcGIS app. And few of us have iPads, so we demoed this again to the chief of the department and the commissioner, and they liked it, and they went out and purchased 25 iPads for this event, which was kind of unheard of with us to make a purchase that large in just a couple of days. Any of you that work in city government should know that procurement is not an easy process. So we then had the ability to, like I said, feed this right down into an iPad application. It was a secure application, required a login. Initially, we were going to go with just a generic username and password, but we did have the ability, actually let me just show that real quick. We did have the ability on the map, not that we got a lot of utilization out of it, but we had set up a layer
That was the toboggan run.
we had one there, right?
Yeah. We deleted the picture of you going down the toboggan.
Yeah, I didn't want to see it. So we actually, like I said, we were going to go with the generic login, but when we decided to, we created a feature class where people could actually put a point on the map, type in a little data, and take a picture with the iPad. And I say iPad, but this was through the app. You know, you can use an Android device, even a Windows phone. But like I said, we made the decision to go with the iPad. But we did tell members that if they want to use their own device, whether that be an iPhone or an Android device, they could do that. But the thing about it is I can't tell them to use their own device. Otherwise, I start getting phone calls from the union saying, oh, you're telling our guys and they're not being compensated. So we gave them that option. Some of them did do it. They used their Android phones and their Android tablets. And like I said, they could actually put a point on the map and snap a picture of that event or wherever they are and attach it to that point. When we showed this to our commissioner, he liked it, but again, due to our very strict timeline to get this working, we didn't want to complicate things too much. You know, people in the fire department, we like to keep it simple. We like to break things, not technology. So we didn't really get much utilization out of this. Actually, most of these points were created by Ben and I when we walked through the site. But again, we wanted to add some points to show it as a proof of concept. But we did wind up creating individual logins for everybody because we didn't want, we wanted to have a little accountability. So if somebody put a point on the map, entered in some data, we wanted to have that ability to see who did that. So this is a view from the iPad application, and it's the same exact data as the Flex map. So we were running all our map services on the Amazon cloud and consuming them into the Flex map application. We replicated it on our internal network, so it was sitting there too, and then also feeding into ArcGIS Online to the iPads. It gave us the ability, based on that initial requirement, to see the current events or upcoming events just by the user toggling on the events for that day. Just another view of the events, all our resources, and then there's, I just wanted to show the picture of the gator so you see what it looks like. We always ask, what's a gator look like? That's what a gator looks like. So, like I said, this was a very successful event for us. The GIS technology, everybody was so impressed with. So impressed that we are moving forward with this. Like I said, I've gotten the permission to purchase our own Amazon cloud server. And with our incident management team, our IMT, actually I guess, so what's an IMT? I know that's going to be your question. An incident management team is a team, a specialty team that manages, just what it says, it manages an incident. We had found some big problems internally after September 11th, not on how we manage an incident, but managing an incident with other agencies. Because during September 11th, it was really the first time in the 100+ history of the fire department that we actually needed somebody else's help. Usually people are calling us because of our manpower and our resources. So all these teams started coming in and, you know, helping us, and they were using this national, what they call the incident command structure, which we didn't know what they were talking about. We thought they were, you know, like from New Jersey or something, talking a different language. And they're like interacting and all talking on the same page, like seamlessly. And it kind of made us, you know, hurt our feelings a little bit, because we are sensitive. And long story short, the president, President Bush, signed an executive order a couple of years later stating that everybody has to use this national incident management system, which we looked into it and we liked the system, so we jumped on board with it. And then we actually formed our own incident management team, and so we can actually now be deployed to other parts of the country to help out, you know, manage an incident. And it's kind of a weird situation for us because when we get called out, or even called within New York City, we're not there to take care of the emergency. They said we're there to manage the incident. And what I mean by that is, when we first formed our incident management team and started getting people trained, we had a 3-day drill out at Fort Totten. And you know, we didn't know what the drill was going to be. We get called out. We all report to Fort Totten. And we get to there, we have a briefing, and we find out that the scenario was an oil spill in the harbor there. It was a oil tanker boat that pulling out of Fort Schuyler, gets hit by another boat, and leaks oil all over the place. So again, us being first responders go into that emergency mode of, okay, well, we're going to need to do this, and we're going to need to do that, and the incident commander throws the loop at us. We're not there to manage that. We're not there to put out fires. We're not there about the oil. We were there to manage 500 volunteers that were brought in to save the wildlife. Now, what do we know about wildlife? I'll tell you, I know nothing. But I said, that's not what we were there for. We were there to manage those people. What were their needs? We had to set up tents. We had to get veterinarians in there. We had to get doctors in there. These people had to be vaccinated in case they got bit by a bird or some sort of other animal. You know, so this is stuff that we had to think of and work with these other teams and bring in those resources and manage that incident. Similar to if we got called out of Idaho right now for a wildfire, but we don't know anything about wildfires. We have a big 5-alarm fire, brush fire at Staten Island every year, every summer, and we call that our big wildfire. You know, these guys are fighting 20,000 acre, you know, forest fires. Again, we don't know anything about that, and that's not what we're there for. We're there to help them manage their teams, who's going where, who's checking in, who's checking out, where are they staying, where are they eating. You know, any sort of situation that comes up, that's what we're there to manage. So my point to telling you all this is with our incident management team, this is one of the paths that we're going to take. We had some training at our fire academy a couple weeks ago out at Fort Totten. That's not on the map, right? That data? We took that off. I think we took it off. So we had what we called field observation training. And it's one of the aspects of incident management where we could send teams out to collect data. One of the things that we did that day during the training was just using a paper map and a compass. And they actually had to go out, find out where they were based on that paper map, and start marking up that paper map. They also went out with handheld Garmin GPS devices, and they had to mark out waypoints and start collecting data that way. And then we introduced them to the iPad and using the ESRI Collector app. And after 20 minutes of me giving them a demo, they were set to go. They went out with their iPads and they were collecting data all over our fire academy. And not only were they collecting the data, but I was back in the classroom with some of our planning section chiefs, our incident commander, and then one of the planning section chiefs, his father is the chief of the academy, calls his father up and says, "Dad, you got to come up and see this." And as they're out collecting the data on the Collector app, we're watching the data back in the classroom pop up on our Flex map, on the Envision Secure. And they just loved it. The chief of the academy liked it so much, he had us put together a presentation. He gave a presentation to the other staff chiefs of how we could do this, and this is the direction we're going. And now to test this, we're having a 5-day drill out at Governor's Island, starting a week from Monday, with our incident management team and the FDNY portion of the Urban Search and Rescue team. And again, I'm not supposed to know, but it's going to be a plane crash, which mum's the word. Nobody knows. But it's going to be a plane crash on Governor's Island, and they're going to utilize these iPads to start collecting data. They're going to do building damage assessment, data collection. They're going to do victim tracking. They're actually going to have to mark out points on the Collector app, plane parts that they find, so on and so forth. And then we're going to have this up on our Flex map back at headquarters for the staff chiefs to see as the data is being collected. So like I said, it's a big concept for us. And then the other big concept, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that you mentioned the fact that by your putting this on the cloud, you enabled other agencies to both add data and to look at that common operating.
Just go there with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the other movement to this was we found with the Super Bowl that, hey, we worked with all these other agencies, and now we kind of took their data. I mean, not that we took it, they offered it, and put it on our map, but we also wanted to get back to them. So we were sharing this data through ArcGIS Online, so they could access it on their iPads or any sort of mobile device. We actually gave them logins if they needed it to ArcGIS Online. And then we also gave them their own accounts to the Envision Secure. So we had all these agencies that were mentioned earlier that had access to our Envision Secure map. So it really brought all the agencies together in a collaborative method to seek to upload data, to utilize the data, and then just work together. And believe me, it's a big thing for us to work with NYPD and actually get along.
Sorry.
If you don't believe me, YouTube the FDNY NYPD hockey
Game.
and you will see the biggest
And that was
brawl
peaceful.
in a hockey game ever.
That was peaceful.
Just happened a month ago. But it is. I mean, you know, a lot of times with different government agencies, you know, we don't work well together, and you know, and it is true. Sometimes FDNY and NYP doesn't work well together. But this was a method that we did work together, and they were very impressed with them giving them data, and in turn started giving us data.
So why is it falling on the fire department to do this mapping? Why isn't it
Because we're
centralized
bigger
at OEM
people.
or something? Sorry?
We're bigger people than that. No, I mean, I honestly, since I took over GIS, which was back in 2002, I've always felt that it's important to share data. And so essentially I look at my GIS data in three forms. There's my data that we create and we maintain, and as long as there's nothing sensitive to that data, I will share it with you. And meaning I will share the firehouses with you, I will share our EMS stations with you, you know, maybe I might have to strip out some data, like I'm not gonna give you the phone numbers to every firehouse. You know, I'll strip that out, but the main part of the data, I'm more than willing to share with you. The second type of data that I house on my databases is sensitive data, like the subway blueprints. I'm not gonna give you that data. I have very strict MOUs with the agency that gave me that, and I'm not gonna give you that data. The third type of data that I have is that data other agencies have given me. For instance, now, hold on to your seats. We do not own or maintain the fire hydrants. Okay, I know that's bizarre, but we don't. New York City Department of Environmental Protection, that's their data. They own the hydrants, they map out the hydrants, they share the hydrants with me. And the reason why I use the hydrants is because, obviously with the fire department, people call me all the time, oh, can you share the hydrants with me? No, I can't. All right, it's not my data to share. I will be more than happy to provide you with my contact over at DEP, and you can call my contact and ask him for the data, but I don't share out other people's data. So that's been my belief, and I've always had the support from our staff chiefs along those lines. And we've never had an issue with sharing data. Other agencies, and I joke with NYPD, but it could be any agency. You know, we see this a lot with the feds, with the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. They're like notorious for not sharing data. That's just the way some agencies are. Why, I don't know. I personally believe, especially in a city like New York or any other city, I think it's very important to collaborate with other agencies. I couldn't maintain the geo database that I have without New York City DOIT, city planning, OEM. I work very well with Erica from Port Authority, you know, and getting data from all these agencies. I couldn't do it. So that's my thoughts and beliefs. And I get the backing from my staff chiefs. So, and hopefully something like this will create that workflow with other agencies too. So that's pretty much all I have. I just always want to say on a last word, Penn-Based Solutions, Ben Yetman here in the front row was awesome with us, and the ESRI staff here in New York City, Dave Michelle, and also the ESRI public safety team out in Redlands are just phenomenal to me. And then my staff, of course, is just great. Chung, who's sitting in the back, you know, my staff is just awesome. Gives me the ability to watch the Yankees when they're on during daytime. And without these guys, you know, we couldn't get this done. So that's all I have. Any questions? I'll be more than happy to answer.
We've got about 10 minutes for questions, but let's thank Steve for that great talk.
Steve, do the building information cards tie into the building information numbers of the city planning?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the same reference?
Yes.
Because that was huge post 9/11. Al could speak to that. You know. 'Cause that was the first time that was done.
Yeah, we assigned specific bin numbers to the features on the map.
A building identification number that had not been done before 9/11 in the way that it was, because they found that they couldn't identify. There were various entrances to different buildings. People were exploring. People were reporting back, and it was the same building with different people. Have I got that right?
Yeah. You know, what Steve is able to do has been built on a foundation that he helped build over the last 20 or 30 years that has brought our data to a point where it's probably the best, I don't know, in the country, in the world. So, you know, and then you've continued to build on top of that, Steve, so it's great.
To what degree does this give you kind of a general template for the next big event?
Well, see, events are kind of weird. We always have last year's events, unless they change. We're already planning, well, we haven't started the mapping aspect of it, but 4th of July is going to be huge for us. There's 4th of July fireworks used to be on the East River. Several years back, they moved into the Hudson River, and now they're moving it back to the East River. But typically, most of our events, like I said, they're annual events. So we always have the stuff from last year. We always save that. Yeah, some of the resources are gonna move. You know, some of, you know, maybe we have, you know, 7-7 Peter working the ambulance this year, but it's 7-7 Queen this year. You know, stuff like that has to change. But overall, it's, you know, it's gonna remain the same. It's the, like I said, the 4th of July is gonna be, you know, a huge event for us, to get all that moved back. We work with a lot of agencies on that, not just because of the land stuff, but we have to worry about the water stuff. So we work with the U.S. Coast Guard. They give us the restricted boundaries of the waterways, what's going to be closed off. It's one of the events that we have to work with our marine units, because we have 3 marine units, and all the marine units will be assigned to that, so we have to work with the marine units to figure out where they're going to be, and also work with the event planners from Macy's where they're going to have the barges and everything. We'll have that mapped out.
Do you foresee using the iPads and doing the live data?
I'm not sure yet. They said we're definitely doing the live data with the incident management team, and we're going to really, like I said, test that out next week with this event. I don't know if I see that, at least not yet, you know, for a pre-planned event. But again, you got to remember that all these events, we treat these as an incident. Okay, yeah, it's New Year's Eve, it's a good time, we're all partying. But to us, that's an incident, and we treat it as such. We're treating it with GIS, we're treating it with our incident management team, you know, helping manage that incident. And we also produce what's called an incident action plan, which is typically about a 40-page document about who's working, where they're working, the weather conditions for that day, you know, safety precautions we should be looking for, all sorts of stuff. And we use that on a regular incident, whether it be a flood, whether a snowstorm, you know, the Harlem collapse a couple of weeks ago. But what this does is if something bad happens at this event, we're ready. We know where our resources are, we already have our first incident action plan, and we're ready to go into, you know, action mode, let's say. So it's pre-planned, but anything at any one of these events could go very wrong in a split second. And I said, that's the purpose of this, for us to be ready for that. Along with the typical, I shouldn't say typical, but along with the other things that normally go on, you know, depending on the event, like New Year's Eve, with EMS, we treat about 150 patients that night. And we're going to do that every year. That's not going to change. You know, West Indian Day Parade, you know, same thing. We're treating about 60 patients that day. That stuff we're used to. But like I said, we're ready with this for the big, hopefully it won't happen, but if something bad goes on.
So is any of this going to be available on first responder only services like FirstNet, basically non-cellular, non-traditional radio? Any plans to make that happen?
Well, that was one of the things that, so ESRI has had this collector app, about a year and a half now, I guess? And I've always been intrigued by it, but one of my complaints about it has always been that you have to be connected to the internet to use it. Same thing with the ArcGIS app. And I've, you know, talked to ESRI about this quite a few times, and I said, we have to have this disconnected. We've found time and time again, the Trade Center, the blackout, the not the snowstorms, but the you know, hurricanes. We lose power, we lose cellular, we're dead in the water again. Well, with the new collector app, they actually have a disconnected editing mode, which just came out about a month ago. And that's actually why we didn't use it for the Super Bowl. But we were able to use it for the IMT drills. And that's, you know, it's nice. I like it better when you are connected, because when you are connected, I can see stuff coming up on the web map live. But if you don't have an internet connection, you can still collect data. Once you get an internet connection, whether you walk into a Starbucks or have a MiFi, once you connect, you sync up, and now all that data is uploaded to the cloud. So that's like huge for us to really start moving forward with this. And then as far as the incident management team, I didn't mention, but our team is made up of 250 people, and we can pack up and go anywhere in the country. Matter of fact, this drill on Governor's Island, it's the other point to this drill is for us to take out all our equipment, get everything set up, see if, what's working, what's not working. We have tents, we have power, we have office supplies, laptops, everything. We have food, water, and we could be in the middle of nowhere. Our incident management team vehicle, which the back half of it is actually set up for GIS, about 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, we have full internet connectivity on there now. We have connectivity to the New York City wireless network. If that doesn't work or we're not in the confines of New York City, we have Verizon Air cards. And if we cannot get connection with Verizon Air cards, we have a satellite dish for internet now. And it's very expensive to use the satellite internet. We pay a very minimal fee to have the equipment on board. But if the time comes and we're in the middle of nowhere, we could activate this thing. And then at that point, we're going to be under federal funding anyway. Because no, I'm serious. It'll be, if we get called to Katrina, it's because it's a huge event. It's a federal event at that point. FEMA, pays for that. So if we have to go to that mode, we're not paying for it. So, but again, we could get internet, hopefully anywhere in the country.
I think we have time for one more question.
You want to? I can ask him later.
All right, Captain, reference law enforcement during the Super Bowl. We had a big issue with sex trafficking, and it was mostly outside the city. Was there anything tied to this system with NYPD, or is that something separate?
No, we didn't deal with that at all.
Okay.
The only thing is we were told about it. Keep our eyes open for it.
Was NYPD on the system at the same time with you? Was this shared with them?
Yeah, we provided them a login.
But there are command centers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're command centers, so
I was
they're
thinking about
interagency command centers, so. My PD retired, so, and I'm a civilian, but, yeah.
Okay, we can get her.
There we go.
Well, is Envision, you mentioned you brought it down to the mobile application, was that just an ArcGIS?
That was
Was it mobile, or did you-
That was the ArcGIS app,
Okay, so you
the
did,
green app.
oh,
But like I said, we're going with the collector app now.
oh, sorry,
It should have seen web map, seen web services.
but the functionality is not.
Right, the
you can't do
interfaces are a
that.
little different. I
Got
don't
it.
know if there's mobile Envision.
We're working on that.
Oh, yeah, we're working on it. Unique Envision app for that.
Any other quick questions? Okay,
Thanks.
thank you very much.